Sweden, Australia, and indeed for the FCO here in London. Conor, how concerned should we be about talk of a Chinese military base in the Solomon Islands? I should just remind viewers, going back to what Dickie Arbiter said, that the Queen of the Solomon Islands is a lady called Elizabeth II. So it seems very odd in one of the Queen's realms to have a Chinese military base. What do you make of that situation?
Well, thank you for having me. I think the first thing that a lot of people don't understand about the Pacific in general is that Chinese presence isn't a new phenomenon. So they've got a big presence with the Fijian police force. They offer military assistance to Papua New Guinea. But I think what's different about the Solomon case is that an established military base would put China in striking distance to a lot of Commonwealth nations, such as Australia and New Zealand. And I think that's what's most concerning to the Australian government in particular, the fact that a Chinese attack could be imminent should the military pact pass through the Solomon Islands Parliament.
Yeah, just going back to that Australian situation, did they drop the ball on this? 15 years ago, I was down under and having a relaxing scotch with Alexander Downer, who was then the foreign minister, and he was talking to me about the Solomons specifically. He was talking about a lot of places Britain decolonised in the 1980s, and China had gone in there, and therefore Canberra had been obliged to go back in and settle it with Australian judges and deputy chief constables and things. And I said to him, do you have, and with reference to the Solomon Islands in particular, and I said to him, do you have a name for that policy? And he said sheepishly, well, how about neo-imperialism? So they were thinking about it then, and it looks now as if the real neo-imperialists have in fact been the Chinese.
Yeah, definitely. I think the Australian government in many ways has taken the Pacific for granted. So the Pacific Step Up, which was kind of a joint Labour and Liberal commitment within Australia, was kind of the overarching dynamic of how Australia wished to engage with the Pacific. But throughout all of the rhetoric, there wasn't a lot of policy action. And then what that has done is created a vacuum for the Chinese to re-step in because of their kind of historical ties to the region. And then obviously China has taken that one step further to engage within a kind of a military security pact that undermines Australia and New Zealand's national interests.
Is it too late to do anything about it? I mean, there was this chap in one of the Australian papers who was basically calling for the Australian Armed Forces to invade the Solomons. Is it actually, unless you're willing to do that, and Scott Morrison doesn't seem to be the kind of fellow who does stuff like that, is it too late? Has the ship sailed?
No, I don't think so. Although a lot of people within Australia's foreign policy circles are calling this Australia's Cuban Missile Crisis, I don't think it's too late because at first the security pact between China and the Solomon Islands is only a draft at the moment. But I think there is a lot of appetite from both the Solomon Islands government and the people of the Solomon Islands for renewed Australian engagement. So what I think the Australian government should do is double down on the already existing security pact, which was established in 2017. And then beyond that, look towards, say, financial commitments, foreign aid, and then driving the COVID-19 vaccine drive within the Solomon Islands.